Evaluation question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge the forms and conventions of real media products? One of the first things I learned when undertaking my research is the fact that short film is essentially a form without conventions. The only thing that actually defines it is its running time, and while researching I found that it was even hard to find a definite figure concerning this. The length of short film is a part of its form, which is basically its structure and purpose. One of the things that most attracted me to making a short film is the fact that it can have so many different purposes. The most important one for me was the idea of promoting a message. My intention as a director was to explicitly address the theme of love, as I feel it to be kind of unnecessary taboo that people just don't really talk about. I wanted to give my own feelings on the topic and find out what other people had to say. Through doing this, I believe I have successfully used the forms of real media products in my own work. The definition of conventions is the usual contents of a media text, which are expected by the audience. However, concerning short films, if we are told we're going to watch one, we will have no idea what to expect in terms of content. It could be literally anything. Therefore, with my short film, the audience's expectations will come from the genre, which in my case was romance and documentary. To make my short film as convincing as possible, I identified the conventions of each of these genres and tried to find original ways to portray them in my own way. Concerning romance, the first shot of the film is a notebook lying on a duvet covered in hearts, which have strong connotations with love and romance. This helps to instantly identify the genre and theme of the film and hints to the audience at what they should expect. This kind of object connotation is used quite a lot in the opening sequence. For example, the costumes and iconography in the fictional sequence all connote typical 50s Hollywood romance films. Plus the fact that we clearly have only two characters, a boy and a girl, implies some kind of romantic relationship in itself. I also included short clips from existing romance films at the very beginning of the sequence, which implies that they are important within the context of this short film, suggesting it also has something to do with love. This also helps to show how I developed the conventions of this particular genre. Romance films give an interpretation of some kind of story about love. Most of the time we encounter love, in either film, television or literature, it's fictional, so how do we know what the real thing actually is? Has the media given us some kind of false perception of it, and are our expectations too high? Surely we can't all have the happy endings we are bombarded with in most stories. This is something I wanted to explore in my short film, what love means to real people. So, I developed the typical conventions of the romance genre by fusing them with conventions from documentary to portray my own interpretation surrounding the theme of love. On the topic of documentary, the sequence of existing films could also be known as archive footage. And when it came to the documentary side, I believe I have again successfully used the conventions of existing media products. Although the opening sequence is predominantly romance, it contains a voiceover of one of the main conventions of documentary. In my research, I defined this particular convention as something that aids in informing the audience and can also help to make a documentary feel more personal, as a person could be sharing their point of view on a subject. This is exactly how I've utilised it in my own work. At the beginning, I inform the audience of what the film is going to be about, then I share my personal views on the subject, and at the end I again discuss what I have learned through the actual making of my film. I use this kind of voiceover at the end as I had seen it in a variety of documentaries and thought it would be a good way of providing an ending for my own work. It also helps to make it more personal, which was something I felt quite passionately about. I recognise that if I wanted other people to share their thoughts and feelings, it would be almost hypocritical of me to not do the same. Another convention I use, which is a major part of my film, is interview. Using interviews allows members of the public to express their feelings and opinions about a particular subject. This form of promoting information is often used in documentaries to properly explore a given theme or subject, and to collect information to help the audience shape their own opinion. You could say I slightly challenged this convention by interviewing strangers, because in the majority of documentaries I watched as part of my research, the interviews were all set up in a chosen location, with people who would already have agreed to be a part of the documentary. Instead, I chose to go to a busy city centre and just ask as many people as possible whether they would like to contribute to my film. This natural environment is also another conventional documentary known as technicality of realism, where directors use natural sound and lighting so nothing appears artificial. The audience automatically expects a documentary to be real at all times. In terms of editing, I have been quite conventional. The opening and closing sequence are both montages, which is common in both the documentary and romance genre. Within the romance genre, they help to tell a story, often detailing a relationship, and within documentary they help to portray as much information to the audience as possible. I feel that this fast-paced editing also helps to capture the attention of the audience, again coming back to the purposes and form, where actually entertaining is pretty much always a priority. Overall, I feel that I successfully created a convincing final product by using the forms and conventions that already exist. However, I made this more challenging for myself by working within a hybrid of genres. In this particular short film, I didn't really challenge many forms and conventions, which is something I would definitely like to address in any work in the future.